In 2016, California wife and mother Sherry Papini disappeared for 22 days. When she was found, she told authorities a detailed account of being kidnapped and tortured. Years later, in a stunning twist, Papini pled guilty to making false statements about what happened to her, setting off a media firestorm. Now, for the first time, Sherry Papini is telling her side of the story and revealing shocking new information. Sherry Papini, Caught in a Lie, an ID documentary event, Monday, May 26th at 9 on ID. Set your DVR. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 231 of the True Crime All the Time podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing really well.
Good.
I'm always excited to record.
You are.
Because, number one, I get to see you, and, you know, what's not great about that?
What a bonus that is.
That's a bonus right there. But the other thing is it's kind of the end of or the culmination of the work, the research and all of that. They're still editing, but you know, this is our fun time.
It's what I call a conclusion.
Okay. Hey, use whatever word you want to.
Yeah.
We got some great new supporters to give shout outs to. Let's do that.
All righty.
We had Brett Denilson.
Hey, Denilson.
Tanisha Baptiste jumped out at our highest level.
What up, Baptiste?
Mary.
Good old Mary.
Cam the Man.
Hey, Cam.
Terry Morris.
Hey, Terry.
Dwayne Burke jumped out at our highest level.
What's happening, Dwayne?
Heather Shanks.
What's going on, Shanks?
Kazuhira Kasumi jumped out at our highest level.
I can hear you, Kasumi.
Tammy.
Hey, Tammy.
Sandy.
Really? Sandy?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you want to sing that song, Sandy, you know, from Greece?
No, I don't.
No?
But you can, and you're more than welcome to.
I'll hold it back for now.
Jessica Sears jumped out at our highest level.
Hey, Jessica.
Katie Garcia jumped out at our highest level.
Wow, thanks, Katie.
We had Helen Burrows.
Hey, Helen.
Jennifer Avery Stevens.
Well, thanks, Avery Stevens.
Marcy jumped out at our highest level.
What up, Marcy?
Antoinette Vasquez.
Hey, Antoinette.
Carrie Rudy.
Appreciate that, Carrie.
John Elliff.
Hey, Elliff.
Do the Right Thing.
Always do. Thank you.
Chris Dexter.
Hey. Ooh.
Dexter.
Related to the Dexter.
Yeah. His first name was Dexter. This guy's last name is Dexter, but you never know.
That's exactly right.
Samantha Perrine.
Hey, Perrine.
And last but not least, Jennifer Sands.
Hey, Jennifer.
And then if we go back into the vault, Gibbs, this week we selected Kate Massey.
Hey, Kate.
Been with us a very long time. Kate's interesting because she's been with us on Patreon forever, it seems like, but she also donates on PayPal as well.
She's all over the place.
I see her name pop up quite a bit.
Pretty amazing.
Speaking of PayPal, we had some great donations there from Lauren Porter.
Hey, Lauren.
James Davis.
What's going on, James?
Jack Hayden.
Hey, Hayden.
And Michelle Damasi.
Ooh, Damasi.
So thanks to everyone who supports the show. It really means a lot to us.
It really does.
Gibbs, right now on True Crime All the Time Unsolved, we're headed to Australia again to tackle the case of the Somerton man.
We are.
Fairly well-known case out of Australia.
Yeah. I mean, it's been around since 1948, but man, it is very popular.
As have you.
Yeah. I mean, we got a lot of similarities.
Yep. So make sure you check that out. It's going to be a really good one. We had a brand new Patreon only episode that dropped on Friday night. It was on the murder of Suzanne Capper. And Gibbs, it was a rough one.
A really rough one.
I don't mean a bad episode. I just mean the details of what happened to this 16-year-old girl were brutal. And it got so emotional that at one point I broke down in tears.
It was a tearjerker.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. And I didn't cut it out. I let it roll. And, you know, that that does happen to you and I
Sure.
from time to time. A lot of times we'll edit that out and kind of restart, but
Definitely nightmarish.
yeah, if you want to see kind of how it is in the raw version, that's it. All right, buddy. Are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time?
I'm ready.
We're talking about a man named Jerry Buck Inman. So probably not a name that a lot of people are familiar with. But, you know, when you look at the history of his crimes and the story around them, they're all too common. Obviously, this guy was a criminal, but like in a lot of cases, he was allowed to be out on the street kind of time after time, despite repeated incidents of sexual violence. He had suicidal tendencies. He had a history of violent behavior and crimes. He targeted young women on college campuses and in different apartment complexes. He followed them around for hours, casing them, stalking them before he sexually assaulted them.
You know, those college campuses are easy targets, aren't they?
They are. And, you know, to be honest with you, it's one of the reasons why I picked this case. It's extremely relevant to me because, as you know, and I think the listeners know, I have a daughter who just finished up her sophomore year at college and another that will be heading off to college in a couple of years.
Right.
So these types of cases, they scare the you-know-what out of me.
I get that for sure.
The other thing about Inman's case is I think it represents the failures of the criminal justice system. The murder of Tiffany Souers is another example of how young women are targeted by people who, like you say all the time, Gibbs, should not be out of prison. And what happens when those who are ill, mentally ill, don't get the help that they desperately need? So, you know, these are not new concepts. We see these in a lot of different episodes that we do.
We sure do. Time and time again.
Jerry Inman is a convicted sex offender and murderer, originally from Dandridge, Tennessee. Inman had charges in Florida and North Carolina. He was convicted in 1989 of sexual battery, robbery, grand theft auto, kidnapping, and aggravated assault with the intent to kill.
Got himself a little rap sheet, doesn't he?
Well, that's one deal, right? That's one conviction in 1989 for all of these different things.
Yeah.
He was arrested 5 days before his 17th birthday and sentenced to 30 years. Okay, I get that. Now, today, as a minor, maybe he doesn't get that long of a sentence. I don't know. Maybe he does.
Yeah, I think it would probably be a little bit more challenged for sure.
But like we hinted at, right, he's ultimately going to be released. There were two unsettled incidents that happened after he was released from the Florida Department of Corrections on September 1st, 2005. He ended up serving about 18 years of his 30-year sentence. Now, I mentioned all of the charges: sexual battery, robbery, grand theft auto, kidnapping, aggravated assault with the intent to kill. So those are some really, really bad charges. About as bad as you get until you reach murder.
Yes.
Really, if you think
really
about
is.
it.
Yeah.
So 30-year sentence, he did 18 years, but he was 17 years old, or not even, right? He was arrested 5 days before his 17th birthday. So when it happened, he was technically 16. But after being released from prison, and this is something that you and I see time and time again, he went right back to targeting young women. And this is the part that I don't get, I don't understand. And maybe it's because my brain just doesn't work that way. I have it, Gibbs, in my head that if for some reason, knock on wood,
Right.
my desk is not wood, but you know what I mean.
Well, you didn't knock on your desk anyway. You knocked on my forehead.
But if for some reason I was to have to go to prison and do a stretch.
Right.
When I got out, I would be the perfect model citizen because I would know that the last thing in the world that I want to do is go back to prison.
I mean, it sounds good that would work out that way, but it's also what resources do you have when you come out?
I don't care. I literally don't care, dude. I just feel like I'm not going to go back to doing whatever I was doing before. I get what you're saying,
Right.
that you don't have money, you have a hard time finding a job. I'll do whatever. I'll sweep the floors and I'll live with whoever I have to live with, or, I'm not going to go back to doing whatever it was I did because I don't want to give up my life, man.
Yeah.
I just don't want to do it. Now, I'm never going to put myself in that position, hopefully, to begin with. I guess the problem I have is I just can't figure out, and maybe it has a lot to do with what you're saying. People, when they get out, don't have the resources, don't have the capability to stay on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
The only way they can make money is to do X. But I think if you're looking at a guy like Inman, okay, he went straight back to targeting women. Well, to me, that doesn't have anything to do with not having the resources. That is having a desire to hurt women. And he's been locked up and, he's thought about it.
Sure.
Probably every day.
I mean, this is his preference.
This is what he wants to do, and he can't wait to get out. And when he does, he's going to go back to doing the same thing.
Yeah.
A forensic psychologist would later diagnose Jerry Inman with several severe mental illnesses. He suffered from recurrent major depressive disorder with psychotic features, bipolar disorder, psychorhythmic disorder, which I've never heard of, schizoid personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder, which is often referred to as multiple personality disorder, and sexual paraphilia.
It's quite a bit.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that's kind of the other thing. He spent 18 years in prison. What did they do during that time to help him? Jerry was sexually and physically abused as a child, and he grew up in an unstable home. His mother has schizophrenia, and she never received any type of treatment for her illness. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not to say that people with schizophrenia can't be good parents. I'm not saying that. Don't send me a bunch of emails saying that I'm insinuating that people with schizophrenia can't be good parents. I'm not saying that at all. But his mother neglected him because she was not well. She also didn't have any help. Jerry's father was an alcoholic, and he was also the perpetrator of the sexual and physical abuse against Jerry.
So it's a tough environment for him to be in.
Very tough. Not something that you would wish on anyone.
No.
Jerry started using drugs at a young age. We already mentioned he's in jail by the time that he's 17 years old. He attempted suicide 7 times over the years, 6 of those while he was incarcerated. One of these times, Gibbs, he tried to swallow barbed wire.
That's a tough gig, man.
And you talk about, first of all, I don't even know how you do that, but if you were successful, the damage that would do to your insides, or, your throat, your esophagus, all the way down.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah. Even if you're not successful, man, the aftermath would be tough.
Yeah. Cause it's, you got to pull it back out at some point.
Exactly.
I know you used to do a lot of sword swallowing in that one act that you had. This was pre your Rex West days, back when you were, trying to make it on some different circuits. I know you were into some sword swallowing.
I was doing whatever I can, I mean, I had no gag reflex, so I was able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you needed the money and you were willing to do whatever you had to do, but it was also very dangerous.
Extremely dangerous, especially when they started lighting them on fire.
After Jerry got out of prison, he went back to his hometown of Dandridge, Tennessee, but he would often leave for days at a time. His mother had no idea where he went. One of these trips was to Clemson, South Carolina. He chose to prowl around the Clemson University campus looking for young girls to stalk and rape. So you think about taking a trip, right? As a family or whatever, you know, the Griswolds, you're going to jump into the station wagon and, you know, let's have some fun. Let's go do something fun.
Yeah.
No, not Jerry Inman, not people who have, you know, these type of desires. He's centering his trip around how can I find young women to stalk and sexually assault?
Yeah. I'm headed off the campus.
But how scary is that that's how some of these people's mind works? It's almost like, are they thinking about anything else? Or is every day when they wake up, what am I going to do today to put myself in a position to be able to find women, find girls that I can potentially sexually assault?
Yeah, I think that's what they're fixated on.
Okay, that scares me.
Yeah.
I got to be honest with you that there are people out there who are plotting all the time, thinking all the time about doing some of these things. May 25th, 2006 was a normal summer day for Tiffany Souers. After the semester ended, she briefly went home to see her family, but she came back to Clemson for the start of her summer classes. Okay, this is real timely because my daughter literally just got home yesterday. She's done with school.
Right.
Now she's not going back. She's not taking any summer classes. But again, when I said this one hits close to home, it really does.
It sure does.
On May 25th, Tiffany went to geology from 9:45 to 11:15. And then she went to literature from 11:30 to 1. Her parents really wanted her to come home for the summer, but she chose to take extra classes so that she could finish her degree in 4 years instead of 5.
That's smart, right? She's motivated, dedicated.
Yeah, it is smart. I mean, I know that it used to be, I think, fairly normal, the 4-year path. Over the years, somehow it seemed to morph into a lot of people taking 5 years.
To wrap it up,
to get their undergraduate degree. Now, there's still people that do it in 3.5 or whatever. They're on the ball.
2.5.
2.5 for you.
Yeah.
And then Doogie was there for, I think, the last half of your second semester or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. He was a show off.
He was helping you out, I think, is how you did it.
He was a show off.
Tiffany had some difficult courses coming up in the fall, and she really wanted to get some of the general education classes out of the way. So, you know, kind of back to your comment, Gibbs, I think she was on the ball. She sounds like she was a go-getter. She was really wanting to wrap this thing up in 4 and then go on to the next stage. After school that day, she went to an Easley thrift shop called Sharing Incorporated. Gibbs, she volunteered there to help out the charity. She and the president, Faith Clark, were working on plans to move the shop next door, hoping to bring in some new customers. So, okay, she's on the ball academically. She is working at a nonprofit thrift store.
Sounds like she was an amazing person.
Yeah, that's what I get too. And again, how often does that come up? You know, when we talk about victims, it's not every time. Sometimes we have victims in stories who have had troubled lives, and it doesn't mean that whatever happened to them should have happened.
Right.
Obviously. But I think more often than not, the victims in some of these stories are, especially some of the young kids who are just starting out their lives. It seems as though they're really doing things the right way. Now, is that because that's all they want you to know about? That's all that's printed in the paper? Technically, there could be some of that. Nobody's maybe going to put out some bad things about a victim.
No.
But I don't think that's the case. I think, judging by just a little that we know so far, this is a really good person. And she had an extremely bright future ahead of her. So Tiffany and Faith walked around planning the renovations. Faith was worried about the project, but Tiffany assured her they would take it one step at a time and she'd be there to help out. Although unconfirmed, the police believe that Jerry Inman visited the store and that's where he spotted Tiffany. And from there, he chose to follow her and he planned his assault for that night. So, I mentioned it, right? Stalking and all that. This is not a stalking situation where it's a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks with planning and all of that. He spotted this girl.
Yeah.
And said, okay, this is my next target and it's going to happen tonight. When Tiffany got back to her apartment, she was alone. Her roommates were gone and would be gone for the next few days. She lived on the first floor of her building at a complex called the Reserve. During the summer at Clemson, thousands of people leave town, especially the apartment complexes. Sometimes entire buildings can be nearly abandoned. And I get that because I mentioned it. My daughter just got home. She has an apartment. Well, it's going to be empty until she goes back for the fall.
Right.
I still have to pay for it, but
sure do. Yeah.
I don't know what the percentage is of college students who take summer classes on campus. I can't imagine it's super high. I know I never did. When the official kind of school year was over, I was gone.
I think maybe early on, there's less students taking them. I mean, I think freshman, sophomore year, I think they probably don't take them as much as people in their junior, senior year because they're trying to later in your college days, you're just trying to get out, man. You're trying to make that graduation date.
That could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be. I don't know. The Reserve is one of the larger apartment complexes in the Clemson central area. It sits on a busy road and hundreds of people live there. Within the actual apartment complex are several large sections. Anyone can drive in. It's not gated like other apartment complexes. And I will say that's one of the things that I really like about my daughter's apartment. It's gated. You have to have a code. Not to say that, people can't get in, but it's a little harder. You can't just drive in without knowing the code.
When I was there the other day, someone had it etched it in the code.
Sure.
On the box. I was like, oh, there it is.
Yeah. I don't know why you did that. And now you're acting like you didn't. But,
it's easier to remember.
Appreciate that. Although mostly students live there, there are some non-students who live there as well. It would be pretty easy for someone to drive in and pretend that they're a resident. And I think, the nature of a college type apartment, Gibbs, if you think about that, okay, not a lot of people really paying a whole lot of attention to loud noises, screaming, people wondering about, especially late at night, because all of those things are pretty common.
Right.
As opposed to, if you're a resident in a complex of people 60 and up, okay, you hear something at 11 o'clock at night, it's really going to jump out at you because, let's face it, most people are asleep and it's not a common occurrence. But in college where everything goes or anything goes and you don't pay attention to a lot of stuff like that.
No, because it's going to be more of the normalcy.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of partying and drinking and screaming and all kinds of stuff like that. Especially when Frank the Tank gets there.
Well, that's a whole nother topic.
Because that's when it starts popping.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The thought is Inman knew all of this when he chose to target Tiffany and follow her. And I don't want to give the man any credit, but obviously there is some bit of intelligence there with the thinking that he already knew he was going to target someone. He was going to attack them. Okay, why don't I do it in an apartment complex where there's a party every night? I'm less likely to be heard or discovered or, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that had to have been going through his head. Erica Cooler is the last friend who saw Tiffany that day. Erica told the Charlotte Observer that when she picked Tiffany up, she asked her why she didn't lock her door. And apparently Tiffany told her, oh, what are they going to steal from me? If they want that $100 TV, fine. That's probably the most valuable thing in my apartment. They can have it. I don't care.
And I think that's a pretty common thought with some people. I know my niece was that same way. I remember she would never lock her door. And I just said, why aren't you locking that door? And she said, I don't have anything of value. What do I care? It's not the purpose behind locking your door.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where some people make the mistake of thinking that locking the door is all about keeping people from stealing your thing.
Yeah.
No, it's also for keeping people out of your house so that they're not waiting on you when you get home.
Right.
Don't let allergy season slow you down. Get common allergy meds for as little as $15 with GoodRx. So you and your family, pets included, can stop allergy symptoms before they start. GoodRx is free and easy to use. Just search for your prescription on the website or the app, compare prices, and get a free coupon to show your pharmacist. Save at over 70,000 local pharmacies nationwide, including Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Publix, Kroger, and many more. Check GoodRx before every trip to the pharmacy to save up to 80% on both brand and generic medications. And did you know GoodRx rewards you for saving money too? Join GoodRx Rewards today and earn points every time you use a coupon. Remember, GoodRx is not insurance, but works whether you have insurance or not. And it could be your insurance copay price. I've been using GoodRx for years, and I can't tell you how many times I have saved money even with my insurance. Stop allergies before they start and save big on allergy medications this season with GoodRx. Go to goodrx.com/TCAT. That's goodrx.com/TCATT. Once the temps start rising, I realized I was back in the same worn out rotation. Same tank, same shorts, same everything. So I gave my daily uniform an upgrade with Quince. Their pieces are easy, elevated, and somehow make me feel more put together without even trying. Like their 100% European linen shorts and dresses from $30. Luxe swimwear, Italian leather platform sandals, and so much more. The best part, everything with Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than what you'd find at similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middleman, Quince gives you luxury without the markup. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. I'm getting ready to stock up on shorts for summer from Quince, and I know they're going to be amazing because everything I've ordered has been of the highest quality, and the prices are amazing. Treat your closet to a little summer glow up with Quince. Go to quince.com/TCAT for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/TCATT to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/TCAT. Just before midnight on May 25th, Erica and Tiffany ate together at a Mexican restaurant. They had fun. Erica later told the paper that she told Tiffany, let's do it again soon. She dropped Tiffany off and told her she loved her before she left the apartment. And right after Erica left, Tiffany sent a text to another one of her friends saying that she was going to stay home for the rest of the night. Gibbs, that was the last time anyone heard from her. Tiffany was sleeping when Jerry Inman broke in. There are a few details that have been released to the public about exactly what happened, but it is known that Jerry Inman tied Tiffany up, raped her, and strangled her to death. At 1:45 p.m. on May 26th, Erica Cooler came to the apartment to return a key, and she found Tiffany's body on her bedroom floor. A girl named Ashley Ellis told the local news station that she was sitting on the steps next to the apartment when Erica Cooler approached her and said Tiffany was dead. The two girls waited outside for the police to come.
Wow. Talk about a shocking moment.
Yeah, both girls had to be shocked. Obviously, Erica, she had just spent time with Tiffany. They were friends. I don't know how good of a friend this Ashley girl was, but I don't know that it really matters. I think you're still going to be shocked anytime you find out that a neighbor, whether you know them that well or not, was raped and killed in your apartment complex. Because, okay, now I'm not feeling safe at all.
Right.
Tiffany had been sexually assaulted and she died from asphyxiation due to strangulation. Inman used her bathing suit top to strangle her. She was naked except for her bra. She had bruises and scratches all over her. But it was obvious from the bathing suit top that she died from strangulation. Her hands were tied up. According to forensic pathologist Dr. Eric Dean Christensen, there was extensive bruising on Tiffany's body consistent with a struggle. It was also consistent with her being restrained. Her estimated time of death was 1:30 a.m., about an hour after Erica dropped her off.
So obviously, since she was murdered within an hour after being dropped off, he must have been waiting nearby for her to return home.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the stalking, right? Obviously, he had to have followed her to the apartment from the thrift store to know where she lived, probably was watching her, saw her go out with Erica. And my assumption is, Gibbs, he waited for her to get home. And that's when he made his move. By 7 p.m. that night, Tiffany's family found out what had happened to her. Tiffany's brother, Trevor, was with one of his friends. Her sister, Brianna, was sick and resting in her room. Tiffany's parents, Jim and Bryn, were about to have friends over at their house. Bryn told the Charlotte Observer, "We were really blindsided."
I bet they were.
And I think that's almost not strong enough a word. I mean, that's the exact word she used. And yes, you would be blindsided, but obviously there's going to be a lot of other descriptive words that are going to go along with that.
Sure.
Devastated. You know, it's something that no parent ever wants to experience. And obviously, unless you have, and hopefully you haven't, you can't really know what it's like. But I think all of us with kids, with children, can approximate it. That's not even the right word. We can think about how bad it would be to get that news, but you can never really know the true devastation unless you've gone through it.
Oh, I agree with you. I mean, I think you can think about that one time you lost your kid at the grocery store and how your heart raced and how bad that felt, and just times that by probably 100.
And there's no doubt, Gibbs, that everyone who lived at the reserve was scared. And how could they not be, right? They didn't know if Tiffany was targeted, if the murder was random, or if it was the work of a serial killer. But to me, either way, you're going to be scared.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, the police are going to say, hey, go back to normal life. Just keep doing what you need to do.
Lock your doors.
Yeah. We got it under control.
Okay. Those are nice words.
Yeah.
But they're not going to make me feel warm and fuzzy when my head hits the pillow that night.
No, and people like your daughter and just parents like you, what are you going to do when you hear that news?
I'm getting in my car and I'm driving straight to the campus and I'm picking her up and she's coming home. I mean, that's what I would do, to be honest.
Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of kids did do there.
Well, and we've seen it in other stories, right? Where there have been murders on campus, sometimes multiple murders, but it's driven people to leave the school, go home, transfer schools. The experiences have been that traumatic.
Yeah.
Where, you know, a lot of times people can't set foot back on that campus because of the memory and the fear that is associated with being in that location. You're telling me you're just going to go back inside your apartment and lay down and go to sleep that night, it's going to be tough. Now, I'm not saying everybody moved out of the apartment, but I'm sure there were some people that left.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know that for a fact, but I would wager that happened.
I'm sure there's some people that doubled up or had friends come over.
Sure.
Just weren't alone, right?
Yep.
Just weren't going to be alone.
Tiffany Marie Souers was a rising junior at Clemson University. She was only 20 years old when she died. Tiffany was from Ladue, Missouri, and she was a civil engineering major. Originally, she planned on getting her law degree and then going to law school until she participated in a bridge building competition. And that's when she realized that she loved engineering and she changed her major.
That's amazing because that's a tough gig too.
It is very tough. I have a really good friend who's extremely high up in an engineering firm, and I know what it took for him to get where he is. It wasn't easy. The schooling wasn't easy. But I look at that and I think it's interesting how people often have an idea of what they want to do, especially when they get to college.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to be a doctor, or I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then you start to experience things. You start to get some things under your belt. And then at a certain point, you figure out, no, I don't really want to do that. I really enjoyed this.
Right.
And I want to do more of that. I want to make that my career.
And I was really good at building bridges.
You're really good at burning bridges. I know that.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about those little Tinker Tot things. Is that what they're called?
Tinker Toys.
Yeah, Tinker Toys. Building those buildings and bridges with those things. I was really good at that.
I think you are conflating the Tinker Toys and tater tots. You were probably eating the tater tots while you were playing with the Tinker Toys.
I probably was.
And just called them Tinker Tots.
It was my Husky years.
So. And wearing your Husky pants.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, Gibbs, what is so ironic is that Tiffany wanted to help people like Jerry Inman. She sought out a volunteer prison ministry group. She offered to write letters and bake things for prisoners. Her mother, Bryn, said that Tiffany wanted to help prisoners have better lives. She thought everyone deserved a second chance. She came from a wealthy family, but she really wanted to give back to her community. She volunteered for so many different things that we wouldn't even have time to go through the entire list. She helped the homeless, counseled teens, volunteered at nursing homes. So again, an amazing person. I just don't think there's any doubt with what this girl did in her 20 years. A lot of it was extremely selfless, designed to help others and not herself. And I think you got to look at that and say, those are some great qualities, qualities that you'd like to see in your own son or daughter.
Absolutely, you would.
But the thing is, Tiffany never talked about her charitable acts with her friends. She didn't want to receive any type of attention for her work. And I think that says a lot about someone too. A lot of times you find out that a certain star, athlete, entertainer has done some type of amazing charitable work.
Yeah.
But you find it out from some other source. They're not on Twitter or Instagram praising themselves. They actually wanted to keep it quiet.
Yeah. They're not telling their publicist to, hey, pump this out here.
And it's somebody else that outed them or, came out and said that they did this, this, and this. To me, I look at that as much more amazing. Not that the person that, kind of pumps themselves up about their charity work
right,
isn't doing some good things. They are. But a lot of times I think, okay, are they just doing it for their image? Are they doing it so that people will like them, to make themselves look better? Or are they really trying to help people out?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm good with whatever it is as long as the charity benefits. But
sure.
I think in the long run, it says something extra when someone just donates without bringing up their name.
Yeah, I think it does too.
Yeah.
I know you gave that Picasso to the Dayton Art Museum.
I did.
Anonymously.
Yeah.
Now you stole it, which I think kind of ruins it a little bit.
Slightly.
But you still did a good thing.
Yeah. Well, that's why I couldn't take credit. Actually.
Overtopped the bad thing.
Yeah. I do hope I took my name off the back of that.
Why in the hell would you put your name on the back of it? So you're telling me if you stole a Picasso, you would in pen put property of Mike Gibson on the back of it?
I did.
Oh, okay.
Just in case it got lost.
Okay. Please return the painting that I stole back to me.
I didn't really think it through.
You know, and Gibbs, going back to the fact that she didn't publicize this charity work, a lot of her friends didn't even know about it until after her death. And the other thing she didn't tell people about was her family's wealth. That was something that she kept quiet. She never wanted to seem like she was showing off. So, you know, when she said, all I have in my apartment is $100 TV. Well, it didn't sound like she was living this lavish lifestyle. And I don't think that's what she wanted. It sounds like to me, she wanted to work hard. She wanted to make her own money, make her own way in life. But her parents were pretty wealthy. Her dad owned a jet. But even still, she preferred to drive the 700 miles to campus in her own car.
And you have to respect that.
I'm respecting a lot about Tiffany Souers. Everything I'm hearing is screaming to me that this was a very impressive young woman.
Just like her, I'm driving to CrimeCon and you are taking a jet.
Yeah. First of all, everybody knows that's false. Neither you nor I have jet money.
Well, that's true.
Well, I mean, we might be taking a plane, but it won't even be first class.
Well, I'm probably back in like luggage area.
Steerage?
Do
they have steerage on planes?
All right. Sorry, sir. You go down to the steerage.
So right before spring break, Tiffany decided to go home to be with her brother instead of going to the beach with her friends. He had been injured in a car accident. And in the accident, his best friend died. So there was a tragedy there. She wanted to be with him. And by all reports, she had a calming effect on her brother. It's also been reported that she had a calming effect on other people as well. I think that's just the type of person she was. A lot of people came to her for advice. Tiffany would always tell her mother, what I am is an active listener. I don't just listen and think of what I'm going to say next. I listen to every word they're saying. Okay. I think that's some advice that we could probably all use.
Oh, for sure.
I think one of the skills that is deteriorating nowadays is the skill of listening. And, you know, again, I'll bring it back to my own kids. I think, you know, that a lot of the kids in that age group, they haven't really honed that skill, and maybe they will. Maybe you and I didn't have it either at that age.
Wait, what are you talking about?
But it's one thing that I really notice is listening and really just communication in general.
Right.
Some of that I think has to do with social media and the fact that they don't talk. You know, it's all emojis and all of that. But
no, you're absolutely right. You know, it's a concern for many people moving forward.
Well, if you don't talk a lot face to face with people and you're not talking on the phone really, how are you supposed to develop and kind of hone that listening skill?
Right.
If everything is a text or an LOL or, you know, whatever, it's kind of hard.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're a company that depends on door-to-door sales, business-to-business sales, you're a little concerned about the future.
Well, and not even just sales. I mean, you think about any type of business that has even an ounce of customer service involved. Okay. You're going to need to listen to what the customer is saying before you can figure out where to go next. But I think what I'm really getting at here, Gibbs, is, you know, just really trying to point out what a good person she was. Tiffany took care of her friends when they were sick. Really, all she wanted to do was help others. She was a very selfless individual. When it was time to choose a college, Tiffany told her parents that She was going somewhere that would be at least 2 plane rides away. And I get that. I think you have a couple of different types of individuals. One who wants to get away from home, but wants to be within a quick driving distance. That's where my daughter is, right? She's about 40 minutes away. I can go down and get her, go down, help her, whatever she needs. And then I think you have other individuals who want to be farther away. They want even a greater degree of freedom.
Yeah.
It may not be because they hate their parents or anything like that. They just really want to kind of see what they can do on their own.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can go both ways, right? You're putting enough distance between you and your parents that they just can't show up randomly. And secondly, you got to be committed to stay there and get your stuff done. You're not going to just be able to pop on home because you miss your parents or because you don't want to be at school that weekend, right? You're going to be forced to get things done at school.
When she toured Clemson, she knew it was the right place for her. I mean, Clemson overall is a safe college town, but there are numerous sexual assaults and rapes, both on and off campus every year. Certain apartment complexes are safer than others. I'm pretty sure you could make that same statement about every university.
Yeah, I think you could. It does seem like it's a breeding ground for that type of activity.
Yeah, I mean, you're not talking specifically the Jerry Inmans of the world, but when you have the number of parties, you have people that are tasting freedom for the first time.
Right.
Alcohol's involved. Some people aren't used to drinking. They drink to excess. Yeah, bad things are going to happen. There's a lot in the mix. Tiffany's death was very upsetting to the entire student body, and the police were under extreme pressure to figure out who killed her and why. Surveillance footage from 3:36 a.m. on May 26 showed a man whose face was covered by bandanas attempting to use Tiffany's ATM card at 2 different ATMs in Clemson. The police were unable to identify the man or find him in the area. On June 2nd, 2006, a man named James Lindsay found Tiffany's driver's license on the side of the road. He was walking near Tri-County Technical College in Pendleton, South Carolina, picking up cans when he found her license.
But it didn't really help the case, did it?
No, but it really kind of sparked police interest. Initially, the police believed that an 18 to 25-year-old man killed Tiffany. On June 2nd, the police arrested a 25-year-old Central man named Stephen David Kudika. He lived at the reserve, and they had previously arrested him on April 20th for sexually assaulting another woman who lived at the apartments. But police soon realized that although this man was a criminal, he didn't kill Tiffany.
So just a bad individual living in the complex that has done some really terrible things.
And it goes back to the fact that there are a number of sexual assaults at some of these apartment complexes on campus. Sheets had been stolen from Tiffany's bed, and police did find a set of sheets in the river, but they turned out not to be hers, and they had no DNA that could help the police. Detectives, Tiffany's parents, and her friends were frustrated by the lack of answers. You know, my wife and I do a lot of shopping online, and we always use Rakuten. Rakuten is the smartest way to save money when you shop because you earn cash back at over 3,500 stores. We're talking fashion, beauty, electronics, home essentials, travel, dining, concert tickets, and more. Your favorite stores like Macy's, Nike, Sephora, Dyson, and Lowe's. And that's just to name a few. Pay Rakuten to send them shoppers. And Rakuten then passes on a part of that payment to its members as cashback. Cashback is deposited directly into your PayPal account, or Rakuten can send you a check. You can even maximize your savings by stacking cash back on top of other deals, like store sales and coupons. You're already shopping at your favorite stores. Why not save while you're doing it? It really is a no-brainer. Membership Membership is free and it's easy to sign up. Get the Rakuten app now and join the 17 million members who are already saving. Cashback rates change daily. See Rakuten.com for details. That's Rakuten. Your cash back really adds up. Hey folks, see if you've ever had this problem. You're trying to eat a little healthier, but you're in the grocery store aisle, you're looking at packaging, nutrition labels, and they're so confusing, you don't know what's good for you and what's not. Well, this is why I love Thrive Market, my go-to online grocery store for getting all of my healthy essentials delivered, and I don't even have to leave my couch. Finding better options for the whole family is easy with Thrive Market's Healthy Swap Scanner. Just scan a product and it instantly recommends healthier swaps. This is how my wife and I found our new favorite snack, IQ bars. Sometimes I eat one in the morning with my coffee, sometimes just later on in between meals. They also have so many on-site filters that make it simple to shop by the needs of everyone in the family. Maybe you have someone who needs gluten-free food, somebody that has a peanut allergy. Well, no more scouring ingredient labels when you can just filter it all on Thrive Market. My wife and I often use the high protein filter to stock up on things like Sieti chips. Ready to make the switch? Go to thrivemarket.com/TCAT for 30% off your first order, plus a free $60 gift. That's THRIVE market.com/TCATT, thrivemarket.com/TCAT. On June 5th, 2006, law enforcement identified Jerry Inman as the perpetrator. Now, he didn't fit their initial profile because, first of all, he was 35 years old and he wasn't from the area, didn't live in the area. They took DNA evidence from the crime scene and processed it through the National DNA Database. His DNA was on file because of his prior convictions for sexual offenses. Law enforcement began a nationwide search for him, and thankfully the search didn't last long. Jerry was found and arrested on June 6th at 11:45 p.m. in Dandridge, Tennessee. This was about 3 hours away from Clemson, and luckily for police, Inman was unaware of how much publicity the murder was getting. According to the Greenville News, he told them, "Had I known you guys were going to come get me and I'd be charged with murder, I'd have been gone." So, okay, he drives 3 hours away to rape and kill.
Right.
To satisfy his urges. I'm assuming he's got some type of urge to do this. And he thinks what? This is not going to be big time news, that this is not going to cause a stir. You're on a college campus.
It's going to be huge news. And it's going to radiate out past just that community.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that you have to think about is, I mean, this is 2006. You don't know anything about DNA. You don't know that there's a database. You don't know that you most likely left something behind. And that because you've been in trouble, you're going to be in that database. And it's just a matter of time before police are going to connect the dots and they're all going to, everything's going to lead back to you. So what does that mean, Gibbs? Is it that he didn't really know, or he just didn't care? He had his urges and he was going to do whatever he had to do to satisfy those urges, and damn the consequences. Because it goes back to my statement, right? If I get out of prison, I'm doing whatever I got to do to walk the straight and narrow. But not these guys. They don't care.
No, I don't think he cared. I really don't.
About the consequences.
No.
All they care about is doing whatever it is that they want to do or feel the need to do, however you want to term it. The risk to them, and the risk being I'm going to be caught, I'm going to be sent back to prison, maybe I'll get the death penalty, whatever the penalty is, just doesn't add up to the reward, right? That these individuals get for doing these nasty deeds that they do. I don't know how else to look at it.
Yeah, but I think if he was concerned, he wouldn't have left his bandana that he wore to the ATM in his truck, because we know they found that in his truck when they arrested him.
Yeah, and I think police finding the bandana just further proved to them that they had the right guy. Inman confessed shortly after he was arrested. And over a period of about 3 hours, he gave written statements to a TBI agent and agents with the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. He confessed and gave details about what led to Tiffany's murder and some other crimes he'd committed. He detailed how he tied Tiffany up, raped her, and then murdered her by strangling her. According to the Greenville News, he called himself an animal for all the crimes he committed. When the agents asked him to sign the written statements, he refused and told them, "We still have to go to court," which I find strange. I don't know why you're going to make this detailed written confession and then not sign it.
I mean, why even do anything at that point?
Just say, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. If you're just going to go to court anyway and take your chances and all of that.
Yeah.
So I mentioned some other crimes that Inman confessed to. One survivor of his attacks was a girl named Beth Bates. She spoke to the Greenville News about how Inman broke into her home and attempted to rape her, but she talked to him and prayed. She thinks that's what convinced him not to hurt her. But other women did not escape Inman's violent urges. He committed several other rapes and burglaries in Alabama and Tennessee from February to April 2006. Gibbs, he confessed to raping one woman in front of her child.
You just didn't care.
His sexual attacks gradually escalated from molesting to rape and then to rape and murder. And I agree with you. I mean, obviously he just didn't care, but then how do you make sense of his encounter with this woman, Beth Bates? He's got the urges. He obviously had the opportunity, but he decided not to. And that's kind of hard to comprehend, right? With the mindset that we know these guys have. Is it really, as Beth believes, that, she talked nice to him, she prayed with him, and he decided to leave her alone?
Or was she just lucky that night that he was more open to hearing what she had to say instead of just following his urges right away?
Yeah, I don't know the answer, but it's interesting to point out.
I mean, good for her.
Oh, absolutely. Horrible for all of these other girls and women. Now, that still had to have been a very traumatic experience even for her.
I'm sure she's sitting there scared, worried that any moment that whatever she is doing to keep him calm could backfire.
Inman told authorities that he was riding around the Clemson campus because pretty young girls lived there. He focused on a random girl he liked. He waited a while and then attacked her. He waited until he thought Tiffany was asleep before he broke in. So that kind of goes back to what you and I were talking about. Obviously, he followed her to know where she lived.
Right. Stalked her.
He would have seen her leave with Erica, and then he waited for her to return. And he let some time pass after she got home before he went in and attacked her, thinking, okay, that's enough time.
Yeah.
She's now asleep.
Very calculated.
Sheriff Davenport asked if he wanted to get anything else off his conscience. And he said he'd never been involved in any other crimes. And then Gibbs, just a few hours later, they received a report of the attempted rape in Alabama. He confessed to that once they hit him with it, but he denied any other rapes or crimes. Then, about 30 minutes later, Davenport received a call from Sevierville, Tennessee, about the rape case there. So then he had to confess to that one, right? So if he was confronted with some evidence, then he confessed.
Outside of that, he was keeping it inside.
Deny. The Tennessee police learned about his previous convictions. We talked about the fact that he had served time in prison. He did some in a Florida prison and then some in North Carolina. In December 1987, He broke into a Tampa apartment. 2 young women lived there. He made one woman tie up the other and raped one of the women. He fled to North Carolina, where he sexually assaulted another woman. While he was in prison in North Carolina, he raped a fellow prisoner. And Gibbs, he tried to escape 3 times. Records indicated that he was unfit to live outside of the prison system. Okay, that pretty much sums it up for me. He's been evaluated. Not only did he do some really horrible things on the outside,
he was also doing it on the inside.
Yeah. So you can't conform to the laws of society outside. You can't conform to the laws of the prison. You're unfit to ever leave this place. I think is basically what they were saying, but we know he was released in 2005. He had to register as a sex offender in Tennessee. Police did check in on him, right? You have to check in from time to time, but he wasn't really restricted. He was able to drive anywhere he wanted. Investigators talked to his mother, Vera MacArthur. She saw him on Tuesday, the week he was arrested. She told them he was bipolar and suicidal. His typical pattern was to leave home and stay away for a few days, then return. She had no idea that the South Carolina police were looking for him. And in fact, Gibbs, she didn't even know he had left the state. Well, it's not too hard to figure out what these little trips are about, right? He is going to a different state. He is targeting girls and or women. He's committing his sexual assaults, and then he's driving back home to Tennessee. This is what he did in the case of Tiffany Souers. Jerry was extradited from Tennessee to South Carolina and held in the Pickens County Detention Center. They took a DNA sample from him and officially matched him to Tiffany's murder. A grand jury indicted him, and the solicitor's office served him with their intent to seek the death penalty. And allegedly, Jerry even said that, he thought the death penalty was appropriate for what he had done. On August 19th, 2008, he pleaded guilty to murder, first-degree burglary, first-degree criminal sexual conduct, and kidnapping. The predicated sentence was death, followed by 2 consecutive 30-year sentences for the first-degree burglary and the first-degree criminal sexual conduct. The judge set his sentencing for September 8th, 2008. Jerry's lawyers fought the death penalty, claiming that when he killed Tiffany, he was under what they said was the influence of a mental and emotional disturbance, in that his capacity to conform his conduct to the requirements of the law was substantially impaired.
Sounds like a lot of legalese.
Well, they are in a court of law, so I think you're going to get some legalese, but
I also call them mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, I think, if you break it down, of course they're doing what they have to do, right?
Sure.
They're trying to get him out from under this death penalty. Yeah. And in trying to do so, they're saying that, okay, he did the crimes, right? He pleaded guilty. We're not arguing that. What we're saying is that you have to take his mental and emotional states into consideration. He was impaired based on these things that we're talking about. It's not a bad argument. I can see why the defense would go that route. We talked about it up front, Gibbs. This is a man who had some pretty serious mental illnesses. Quite a number, if you remember. We listed off like 4 or 5 different things.
Yeah.
That he had been diagnosed with.
Severe stuff.
Severe, very severe stuff. The defense called on a Dr. Marty Loring, a Georgia licensed clinical social worker and expert in traumatic stress. She was basically their expert witness. The prosecutor argued that she couldn't testify because it's illegal for someone to practice in a state that they're not licensed in. And ultimately, Gibbs, she didn't testify. She invoked her Fifth Amendment rights to avoid incriminating herself. But because of this, Inman's lawyers tried to have the judge declare mistrial and argued that the prosecutor's actions were prosecutorial misconduct. The judge agreed that there was some misconduct, but not enough for a mistrial. The judge allowed a continuance for the defense to get another expert, but Dr. Loring was not released as a witness.
Definitely some maneuvering going between the two legal parties, right? On that one there, the defense wasn't happy with what the prosecution was doing. And
the prosecution definitely did not want her to testify.
No way. Yeah.
So this Dr. Loring was really the most interesting part of the trial. Eventually what happened was the defense didn't call her again to the stand. They could have. She could have taken the fifth again. But what the judge did was he called her and asked her to talk about Inman, which she did. And she detailed out his abuse from childhood and how that would have influenced his criminal behavior. Inman was sentenced on April 22nd, 2009. The judge handed down the death penalty and 2 consecutive 30-year sentences.
Nothing saying guilty like that.
No, that's about as rough as you can get. His attorneys protested the sentence and they wanted to push for life instead. So they appealed, and his appeal was decided in December of 2011. The Supreme Court of South Carolina upheld the original sentencing. Inman stated that his guilty plea was conditional on being sentenced by a jury. He claimed that the judge erred by refusing to recuse the solicitor's office from any further involvement in the case. He brought up the prosecutorial misconduct and the fact that the judge declined to grant a mistrial. In 2012, Jerry Inman filed for post-conviction relief. It wasn't granted until April 21st, 2020, after years and years of litigation. And a lot of people are very upset, Gibbs, in the Clemson community. Jerry Inman has recently been in the news once again for a resentencing. A Supreme Court decision from 2016 ruled that a jury must agree on the facts of a case in order to sentence an individual to death. Rulings can be overturned if there have been significant constitutional changes that could impact a trial. So basically what happened is it led to a new sentencing for Jerry Inman.
Yeah. All these years later.
And what else could he hope for? Death plus 2 30-year sentences. Hey, let's roll the dice again. Sentence me.
Right. See if I get something a little better.
I can't get anything worse, right?
Yeah.
2 death sentences. I mean, and what's that going to be?
Exactly.
On May 8th, 2020, a judge ordered him to be resentenced. And this is what his attorney wanted. This is what Jerry Inman wanted. They both wanted a jury to decide his fate, his ultimate sentence, whether he should get the death penalty or life in prison. The state attorney general's office may appeal to the South Carolina Supreme Court, but as of right now, I don't believe they've taken any action. Tiffany's parents have publicly stated that Inman receiving the death penalty is not going to make them feel any better, but they want to be assured that he will never get out of prison. As of 2021, he is still awaiting his resentencing. I think, Gibbs, if you look at it, the most likely result is that a jury is also going to find that he deserves death. They're going to uphold his death sentence.
I believe that to be true.
Not certain, but I think if you had to put odds on it, you'd have to lean that way. As we wrap up this case, the case of Jerry Buck Inman and the murder of Tiffany Souers kind of represents an unfortunate reality for millions of young women who are currently in college. Like I said in the beginning, this one scares the shit out of me, right? There are people right now, as you and I set and record this episode, who are driving around a college campus looking for females to target.
Sure are.
That's scary, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
There is somebody somewhere driving around looking to target a female on a college campus right this second.
Yeah.
There's somebody stalking apartment complexes looking for easy access. There's somebody walking through apartment complexes to see which doors are locked and which doors are unlocked.
Lock your doors, people.
Yeah, I think that's number one, right? Lock your doors. But it's not just college students. Right. You and I talk about it all the time. Everyone needs to be aware of their surroundings. I'm not even talking just about girls and women.
No.
I believe that everyone needs to be aware of their surroundings, lock their doors as soon as they enter their homes, and pretty much keep your head on a swivel. It's what you and I talk about time and time again.
Like you always say. Yep.
When it comes to Tiffany Souers, I just don't think there's any doubt, Gibbs. She was a young woman with her entire life ahead of her. She received a tremendous amount of joy from helping others. She was an amazing friend, sister, and daughter who was raped and murdered by a man who should not have been out of prison at all. I think you and I are in agreement on that. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're usually in that camp.
Yeah, I agree. He shouldn't have been let out.
I do think this case represents the tragic realities of what can happen when someone with a history of brutal sexual violence, as Inman had, is let out of prison, especially given the fact that his evaluations and stuff said, hey, yeah, this guy should not be out of prison. He's not fit to be back in society. But how does that happen? We see it time and time again that, okay, we're letting you out early, even though all signs are pointing to the fact that this is a very bad idea.
Yeah, but they still let him out.
Yeah, whether it's overcrowding or, hey, you've just been here a certain amount of time. I don't know. I get it. You can't keep people locked up forever.
No.
For each and every crime. But Gibbs, these instances where these guys are repeat offenders and they show this propensity for deviant, violent, sexual behavior time after time, I don't know. I just feel like we need to do a better job of protecting our citizens from these types of individuals.
Oh, I 100% absolutely agree.
And I know there's not a one size fits all cookie cutter approach that will work. It just doesn't work, right? Every state's a little different.
Sure.
Sentencing guidelines are different, but I get so let down.
Yeah.
And I know you do too. You get ticked off when, we see where these guys have done so many bad things, but we just keep letting them out. Try again.
Just seems like there should be a better process or approach to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever the jury decides for his sentence, hopefully it will be an appropriate punishment. I think at the very least, the large number of women that Jerry Inman has harmed, they deserve that. They deserve to know that this guy is going to pay for what he's done. I don't think he's ever going to get out.
I don't think so.
I would be shocked. Now, I don't know if the jury will give him another death sentence, but I don't really care about that. I'm kind of like with the family. I don't really care. What I care about is the fact that he's never let out to hurt another female.
Yeah. Either uphold it or give him 2 life sentences and call it a day.
Yeah. But that's it for our episode on Jerry Buck Inman. Gibbs, we've got some voicemails. You want to check those out?
Let's check them out.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Nicole from Jacksonville, Florida. I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm so grateful and happy that I found y'all's podcast. I kind of found it on a whim. I was looking for, a podcast to listen to at work. I've been listening to y'all at work when I'm doing notes towards the end of the day. I have the podcast up all the way for the volume. I'm wondering if my coworkers can hear it sometimes. But one case that's kind of interesting is the case of Lonzie Barton, Lonzie. It's something that happened here in Jacksonville, and it was all over the news and whatnot when it happened a few years ago. But I just thought it was an interesting case, even though it has to do with the child. But anyways, I love you guys, and keep your own time ticking. Bye.
All right. We love you too. And you know what I say, Gibbs?
What do you say?
Turn the volume as high as it will go and rip the knob off.
That's right. Crank it up.
And let it roll.
Like being found on a whim.
Hi, my name's Bobby. I stumbled upon the podcast by accident last week, and I absolutely love listening to it. I would stay up to 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning sometimes. Thank you guys for making it interesting.
Well, Bobby, thank you very much. Appreciate the fact that you're listening. Appreciate the fact that you called in. Now, what I will say is don't stay up too late. We like the binging, but you got to get your sleep. That's for sure.
Yeah. 5 a.m. That's some dedicated TCAT listening.
It is, but I don't want you to sacrifice your health just to binge TCAT, but we do appreciate you very much.
Appreciate it.
Hey, this is Jeannie Hinton. I listen to you guys. I've recently found you guys. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm only on episode 40, and I was listening to the Robert Charles Brown, I think, he's from Coushatta, Louisiana, and you guys pronounced it Coushatta, and it was the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. I thought it was great. I just love listening to y'all. You're so funny, and you tell the stories amazingly, and I just love it. Anyway, keep up the good work. Bye.
Coushatta, bruschetta.
Did you hear the difference? No. So you and I talked the other day about New York and Oklahoma.
Yes.
I think we have to throw Louisiana in there as well, because we have trouble with words down or town names down in Louisiana.
And you're going to throw Alabama and Georgia and Florida. You're just going to throw them all in.
We have trouble everywhere. Let's just admit it. But we do the best we can.
We do.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Wendy Whipple from Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Just wanted to tell you how much I enjoy your podcast. My daughter, Jessica, got me hooked on True Crime podcast, but I converted her to True Crime All the Time podcast. Also wanted to give you an idea for a podcast, and that's Hugo Zielinski, who is from the Scranton-Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania area. And not sure how many people he killed, but they found a lot of bodies in his yard. And he was also known to use zip ties to kill people as well. So, again, just wanted to tell you how great you guys are and tell you to keep your own time ticking. Bye.
All right. We appreciate that voicemail. Always like when people are turning other people on to the podcast.
Love that.
And that's a case that we'll definitely check out. I don't know if it's one I've heard of, though.
Well, you heard of it now.
I have now. Gibbs, we had a lot in the mailbag.
We did.
Stephanie Chavez sent us in some Playboys. First time we've ever received Playboys.
I know.
Apparently, she was cleaning out some of her dad's stuff, and she sent a couple that had some true crime articles in there. One is on the Menendez brothers. And I noticed you snapped them up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I did.
And put them in your bag.
What Playboys you talking about?
As soon as you got here, I didn't see them anymore.
Because of the articles.
It's all about the articles. Jesse Sheldon sent in a Harley chip from Florida. Tiffany Fox sent in a Harley chip from Bourbon Street. Very cool.
Yeah.
Francis Porter sent us in a big box of candy.
Oh, yeah.
And some Hard Rock Cafe keychains. You know, inside there, Gibbs, was a bit of honey.
Yeah.
I had not had one of those in 15 years.
You enjoyed it, didn't you?
It was awesome. I forgot how much I like bit of honey.
Well, now everybody knows you like a bit of honey.
Yeah, it's good. All right, buddy, we got to get out of here.
Yes.
That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
how did the internet go from this
You could actually find what you were looking for right away, bang.
to this?
I feel like I'm in hell.
Spoiler alert, it was not an accident. I'm Cory Doctorow, host of Who Broke the Internet from CBC's Understood. In this 4-part series, I'm going to tell you why the internet sucks now, whose fault it is, and my plan to fix it. Find Who Broke the Internet on whatever terrible app you get your podcasts.